Let me profoundly take this opportunity to welcome all of you today to this event. This is a bi-auspicious occasion that is two-folded. Number one, it's an advent of a mind-taking, age-breaking, and very innovative approach to an early warning system. Secondly, it also offers us a baseline for future engagements in the process of fighting this alcohol and drug abuse scourge. Our chief guests, we are very proud and honored for you to honor our invitation. We continue to enjoy tremendous and unwavering support from your good office, and NACADA is greatly indebted to the approach that you've taken to ensure that this fight against alcohol and drug abuse is set and toned at the very top. Thank you, sir. Your guidance in every endeavor we undertake remains very handy, and we appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, the drug market is ever changing, as is the environment globally. Being faced by the new challenges that we continue to face, both locally and globally, there's need for very innovative, multi-sectoral, and multi-agency collaboration, not only to identify emerging trends, but also to assess the presence of new psychoactive substances within our environment, and in particular, our local scene, which is Kenya. This therefore brings us to this very important day, marked by an innovative approach towards looking at this fight against alcohol and drug abuse. I will give you a snippet of the report that has been prepared by a very diligent group of multi-agency participants. And before I proceed to give the presentation, with your indulgence, chief guest, I'd like to appreciate the multi-agency research team that made this day a success. Every applause will be just one clap. Can we rehearse? Applaud. Thank you. I'll start with the NACADA research team. Please applaud them. One round of applause for the government chemists. A round of applause for the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. A strong round of applause to the team from the county governments present. Oh, I hadn't finished. Presently represented by the Nairobi team. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now let me go to the presentation. This is a wastewater presentation, and it is a culmination of a very rigorous process, which was not only multi-sectoral, but had very many moving parts. Before I delve into it, we ask ourselves, why did we have to do this research? Number one, it is informed by the current trends. Globally, we are seeing an increase in synthetic drug use and new psychotropic substances. Bearing in mind that Kenya is a microcosm of the world, we wanted to know whether we are in it or we are not in it. Secondly, there's an exponential expansion in the online drug market, primarily selling these synthetic drugs. And why so? It's because the precursors that are used to make these synthetic drugs are our normal day-to-day elements and compounds. Thirdly, very many groupings, unscrupulous businessmen, drug dealers, these merchants of death are diversifying from the traditional drugs into the synthetic space, because synthetic drugs don't have easy attribution. Thirdly, one reason why we went into this study is that Kenya remains a strategic transit and an emerging consumer hub in the use of hard drugs. Heroin is trafficked primarily through the Indian Ocean. Cocaine is trafficked from South America. The emerging synthetic drugs like methamphetamine, in the recent bust, we saw that it came from the Greater Middle East. Finally, and most importantly, the Port of Mombasa remains a major volume trafficking gateway. Why did we choose wastewater analysis? Wastewater analysis is a very scientific way of assessing chemical compounds within an ecosystem. The scientific name for this is wastewater-based epidemiology. The use of this method is premised on one thing. Anything we take into our bodies comes out as waste, either as a metabolite or as a compound, essentially creating a chemical footprint which can be used to reverse analyze and to be analyzed reversely to know what chemicals had been used by whoever produced a sample. Ladies and gentlemen, I say today is an auspicious occasion because Waziri, this is the first ever surveillance study in Kenya and in East Africa, happening in your tenure. Can we give ourselves a clap? And why did we do this as NACADA? The study was undertaken pursuant to our mandate of monitoring and surveilling all emerging alcohol and drug trends. And as I alluded earlier, and I'll be very specific on this was a collaborative effort, even though being presented by NACADA, that encompassed the government chemist, the Pharmacy and Poison Board, Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company, Kisumu Water, Eldoret Water, Nakuru Water, and Mombasa Water. The objectives of this study were many, but the salient ones were four: to detect the emergent new psychotropic substances and illicit drug trends, analyze the wastewater for drug metabolites, analyze street drug samples, and this third one was a triangulation mechanism to ensure that this study can be generalized to the population. The fourth one was to identify adulterants and cutting agents. Fourth was document polydrug use, and I'll explain what polydrug use in a subsequent slide. And finally, to detect signs of clandestine laboratories. Practitioners say any synthetic drugs is normally accompanied by a lab. Now, what methodology do we use? This is a profoundly scientific method that we use, and the coverage straddled all the 8 administrative regions in the country. And the wastewater sampling targeted all the 5 cities, which is Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, and Eldoret. To make this study very rigorous, we used a 2-pronged strategy where we collected and assessed the wastewater from drug hotspots, and this was triangulated by collection of street drug samples from users through key informants, snowballing sampling, among other techniques that are allowable within this space. Ladies and gentlemen, the analysis technique was very rigorous, as the government chemist can tell you. I don't want to delve into those terms that are used in this analysis. Because of my rich Western heritage, I don't think I'll be able to pronounce some of those words. But of importance, and as a scientific reference, we took 48 wastewater samples and 104 drug samples, both to mirror and provide a formidable analysis process. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's go to the crux of the outcome of this. Under the key findings, the samples assessed detected evidence of multiple illicit drugs and new psychotropic substances. And the ones that had critical mass presence were 9. Cocaine, amphetamines, I'm unable to say some of those words which are on the screen. One that is alarming is the last one, the cat-related compounds, which shows that the active ingredients in kat and mogoka is commonly used and widely used within the country. Now to the specifics. We confirmed that there are new psychotropic substances within the water system, as you can see on the screen. But what is the import of this from a research perspective? This confirms that Kenya is now experiencing penetration of global synthetic drug markets. We only assume it's global because we have not been able to identify any labs other than the one we interdicted in Namanga, and an ongoing investigation at the Malindi coast of Kenya, which is still active, and I won't delve into. Now, the emerging drugs that have been identified, you can see them on the screen. Again, difficult in saying those words. But what are we saying from this? This indicates that there's a transition from the traditional drug use towards the synthetic stimulant markets. What is the risk of this? The risk is that these drugs can be hidden in plain sight. Synthetic drugs are made from precursors which are available, legal. It is just a matter of mixing 2, 3, 4, 5 illegal drugs to bring out the synthetic effect of the drugs that we are trying to fight. Finally, it is implicit from the presence of the drugs that there might be clandestine drug manufacturing labs within the country. And this is because the wastewater analysis revealed chemical signatures with illicit drug prediction patterns. This evidence suggests that there might be small-scale clandestine laboratories, which now is a tasking for the respective agencies to take action. There's also possible local production, in addition to the possibility of it being coming through the normal international transit lines. And this is a major national and security law enforcement concern because of one critical thing, the issue of attribution. Other drugs can be attributed. Heroin, you can see the poppy plants in Afghanistan. Cannabis, you can see them being grown at the Shashamani area of Ethiopia. But for these synthetic drugs, they can be made in a lab that can be as small as 7 by 7 meters wide. Ladies and gentlemen, of key concern is a new entrant in this space, the issue of adulterants and cutting agents. Because the people plying this trade of alcohol, illicit alcohol and drug are very unscrupulous and driven by profit. And because of this, they normally add additives to these drugs to increase the volume and make a kill. Waziri in Kenya, a sachet of heroin, which is just like a small pinch, goes for between 150 and 300 Kenya shillings. That sachet can be multiplied threefold by adding one of these adulterants. And the commonly used is caffeine and diazepam. In the space of cocaine, the commonly used additive is caffeine and ketamine. And this report implies, and we've seen cases of rising overdose because of the adulterant effect, and emergence of ketamine and diazepam as new adulterants within the country, which was seen from the samples collected from the wastewater. Now, another emerging risk that we've seen from this study is the issue of polydrug use. Polydrug use is a situation where you use more than one drug. When we were doing the study for the university students, where we looked at 17 universities, one of the key things that emerged was that these young people between the age of 19 and 25 cannot identify with one particular alcohol or drug. And that is where that themed themed behavior called aluta came from. They start with champagne, smoke cannabis, use pharmaceutical drugs, finish the day with alcohol, and take some cannabis cookies before they go to sleep. This is what we call polydrug use. And we saw a match of paired drugs that were going together in the study. Heroin and diazepam, heroin and cannabis, cannabis and methamphetamines, alcohol and codeine. Codeine is an over-the-counter cough syrup. Methadone and cannabis. Methadone is a legally dispensed drug that is used to help people who are addicted suppress the withdrawal syndromes. It mimics the actual effect of drugs like heroin, but we are seeing it being abused in conjunction with cannabis. Now, the significant risk for all this is the issue of overdose, people transitioning from substance use disorder to mental health, and the issue of treatment complexity. You're targeting to treat one ailment and you realize that the person also has an addiction with the same medicine you're trying to use to cure him from their problem. For example, methadone. What is the strategic implication of this report? Number one, I think we are transitioning from into a synthetic drug environment. There's an emerging psychotropic substance threat. We are seeing increasing complex drug markets, including online sale. We are potentially developing local clandestine laboratories like the one we interdicted. And from the findings, we now need to move our strategy from the traditional posture to the new challenge that this study has highlighted. I'll quickly go through the key recommendation, one of which is to establish a national wastewater drug surveillance and early warning system. Secondly, and this I say from deep in my heart, is that we need to enhance the capabilities of the government chemist. The government chemist can do more if empowered and resourced. The third one is intelligence-led operation towards dealing with the clandestine laboratories. The fifth one is to establish an adulterant alert system, where if we see an emergence of procurement of a certain adulterant, it be an indication that it is being diverted to be used in this illicit trade. Fifth, we need to reform the treatment system, where we look at the polydrug use perspective as opposed to looking at one line strain of managing these drug issues. Then we strengthen the regulation of prescription drugs. Diazepam is a prescription drug, tramadol is, and these drugs are being abused. So the attendant agency needs to be strengthened, and the regulation that enables them to sanction people who are participating in this needs to be upped. So, finally and importantly, what is the significance of this study? This study, first in the region, introduces water waste epidemiology. It offers an early warning system. It enhances intelligence-led surveillance. It is evidence-based with a rigorous scientific basis. It bridges public health, forensic science, and law enforcement approaches that we've been using before in the traditional drugs. It represents a shift from being reactive to a proactive surveillance posture that we intend to take now that alcohol and drug abuse has been promulgated by His Excellency himself as a threat, as an existential threat to this country. Chief guest, as I close, I want to buttress and emphasize a few things. For this war in alcohol and illicit drugs to fully succeed, science must inform strategy. For this fight to excel, data must guide our response. And this launch here epitomizes that. Thank you very much for your audience.